She surprised my father and did it. She became turned Catholic. But she was a Lutheran.
Gotcha.
It was as close to being Catholic as you could be. But she worked for the church. I mean, they ran bingo good and spaghetti dinners and spaghetti stuff. She was always working. She was a big worker. But she also took care of the household. I mean, she canned and she was never still. She was a...
But without a lot of kids in the house, I mean, you know, she found other things to do.
That's right.
I think you told me she died at age 89?
89.
In what year was that?
Okay. How old was I? Maria was a baby.
So in the 60s?
Yeah, Maria's 40. I'd say, yeah.
Oh, so closer to 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did she die?
Sitting, watching TV.
Happy?
Happy as a clam. She had this very bad, macular.
Uh-huh.
She never was in the hospital and never had gone to the doctor's office. He always came to our house. But she wasn't feeling good, and my sister called me, who worked in the Phoenixville bank, and she says, you better make an appointment for Mom to go to the doctor. She's not been feeling good. And she said, you'll have to take her. I was home with my kids. I was free. They were working. So we made the appointment. I took her out to the hospital. And they were going to do a few tests. And they took her into this room, and I can still see her. And I'm in there with her, and she handed me her false teeth. And I said, Mom. She says, I know you're going to leave me here.
Oh.
I said, Mom, no, I'm not. She was never in a hospital, never near the hospital before in her life. Now,
Do you think it scared her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she thought I was going to leave her there.
Okay.
But what they found that she had a bubble on her aorta. Like this.
Yeah.
And I got so upset, and the doctor said, look, she's going to quietly sit down someday and leave you.
Well,
He says we should all be so lucky.
A good prognostication there.
And that's exactly what happened to her.
Yeah.
She didn't suffer at all.
All right, let's go back. So you got married and you were living in apartments in Phoenixville.
Well, first in Westchester because I worked in Westchester and he worked in Coatesville, which was next door to each other. And then when he got the job in Phoenixville, I moved back to Phoenixville to an apartment.
Okay.
I went to 3 apartments before I got the chance to get this house. And one day Ace come home and he says, I just saw the house we're going to live in. I said, can I see it? And he said, no. He said, I'll tell you what happened. He said, so-and-so came out to the hospital, come out to the school looking for one of the teachers. And he said he already had left. And he said, and he told me that he found a nice house out on the avenue for him. And I said to this guy, can I see it? That's how we got the house.
All right. How did the other guy feel about that?
He had already gotten a house. That's what
okay.
I said to him. I mean, he said to him, he says, he told me last week he just bought a house.
Oh, okay.
And so, no, he didn't do it behind his back. He would never have done that.
Okay.
So anyway, we made the appointment, and they were going to show me, and Ace's brother was a wonderful carpenter, his oldest brother. And he said, but I want Uncle Joe to see, he said, I want Joe to see this first, with me. So Joe came up, and Joe and me and Ace went to see this house, the old house I'm living in, old Victorian house. It's over 100 years old, in good shape. Joe opened the front door, and he grabbed a hold of the front door. Now our front door is this thick. And he went, buy it! That's all he did, he said.
All I did see was the front door.
Yep, it was made well.
So you bought the house in what year?
God. Drew was 2. That's how I remember.
Sure, sure, I
Drew
understand.
was 2
Yeah,
years old.
yeah.
Now, how old is he? 52.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's 50 years ago.
1960 perhaps. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got ahead of
And of
ourselves.
course, it's a mortgage. I mean, we didn't have the money. It was a mortgage and down, you know.
Do you remember what it cost? Do you remember what it cost when you bought the house? 20, 30?
20. How much do you think our house cost when?
11,000.
Okay.
Oh wow, that's a
Well, he
bargain.
was 2 years old when we moved in.
Okay, so what we missed was when you were living in the apartments, then you got pregnant, and that's when you had the first 2 babies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had yeah.
Yeah, and I was 1 when we moved into the house.
Yeah. Well, you were closer to 2 when we moved into this house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what year was Joe born?
57.
57. He was born in 59.
Okay. And what was that? What was the first baby like? What was that experience like for you?
Oh, Jody he was a good kid. And then I was used to kids. I was the aunt to
Sure.
35. Mom was the grandmother of all those kids, and my sister had 5 girls. I mean, there were always kids in
Right.
my life and in my husband's life. So having children around was never a problem with us. It was like, hey, yeah. And
So you had Joe in what, 57?
57,
Drew in 60?
59,
59?
and James in 65, and
And-
Marie in 69.
Any others?
I had a miscarriage between Drew and James, and we think there were other miscarriages because I had no regular cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have spells every now and then of bleeding and whatever, and they think it was the fact that it was aborting it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had no way of predicting pregnancies because I had no regular period at all.
Mm-hmm.
From the day I didn't get my first period until I was 19 years old, the day I was graduating from high school. The week before I was
Wow.
graduating from high school. I was considered a baby.
Wow.
But it's a condition, isn't it, Drew? Now Maria has that condition, same kind of condition. My mother said she had that condition. I used to worry sick because I thought she had 11 kids. Oh my God, what if I get 11 kids?
So what were those years like with all the little ones and
Easy. Yeah, they were good kids. I didn't have any difficulty being a mother or yeah. I just stayed home and enjoyed it. I liked being with them. They liked my family liked them.
they had
My
lots
sisters
of they had lots of aunts and uncles
they
and
had-
cousins
yes,
to play
they
with.
Did.
And-
There was always a lot, and there's a niece of mine who lives in Texas, and I just got a card from her, a Christmas card, and it said, Maureen, if your kitchen could only talk. Because they loved coming to my house. They'd come to see their grandmother, but they'd end up at my house because it was more fun and it was more open and I wasn't.
Why was it more fun?
Because I wasn't worrying about whether the rug got dirty or.
Oh, you weren't.
And I could cook. Right?
That helps.
Yeah.
So the last time we spoke about Ace's job, he was at Phoenixville teaching. What was he teaching?
English and history
Okay, but
and social studies.
But that's where he worked most of his career.
39 years he worked
Gotcha,
at Phoenix
okay.
High School.
And you said he coached early. Did he coach later?
He coached at the beginning. No,
No,
I said
okay.
he went out for football when he was in school.
Yeah.
And I said he was built like Jason, so he never made it, and that's how he got the name Ace. Because he became a manager, and the kids called him Ace, the players,
Right.
because he was a good guy. And then he went on to Millersville, and he he was a student always. He was smart, and
Did he enjoy his career? Did he enjoy teaching?
he loved teaching.
Yeah.
He did. What he worried about, and I tell people this today, and I said, I see it turned out, he worried, I guess it was, he worried, he had the senior kids, he worried he would never let himself, once they changed the rules, be alone in a room with a girl, student, and things like that, because those things were starting to happen. And he said it was so easy to happen. And then they start saying you couldn't do anything to punish kids. You just had to send them to the office. Previous to that, my boss, I went back to work, by the way, as a legal secretary.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And the guy I interviewed with said to me, I had your husband in school. And he said many a time he had me up against the lockers. And I said, then you misbehaved. He said, you got it. And he said, he said, that's all you had to do, is say, what did you say? With us, I kept, and that's how he, but that became a no-no, you couldn't do that. And that's when he got out of teaching. He stayed with the school district, but he became the audiovisual coordinator. Ask him. He was his helper.
The AV guy.
Yeah, we worked many summer hours cleaning the overhead projectors and getting all the stuff ready, you know, for all the
schools in Phoenixville.
So he did that for how many years before he retired?
I don't know.
It might have been like the last 10.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
at
That long?
at
Okay.
least, yeah.
That he's
Because
out.
that's what he was so disillusioned with, the fact that there was no control in the schools
Discipline.
anymore, and no discipline.
Yeah.
That they were not. No. And most, ask Drew, we'd be walking down the boardwalk in Atlantic City, and somebody'd say, "I'm Mr. Drabick." I said, he really was a good teacher, and he was well liked. They got tired of hearing it, and you know, of course they didn't go to this school because he wouldn't let them go to the same school he was teaching in.
Yeah, it'd be a weird dynamic, I guess.
No, they went on to another school.
But where did your kids go to school?
Same class at 10th High School
Yeah?
in Potsdam.
Was it good?
I think it
Yeah,
was
it's a
good.
great
They had a
college
good
prep school.
education.
Yeah, and it was progressive actually.
It was
back then.
progressive. They had advanced studies. That were,
Independent stuff. If you were a good student, it was a great place for you. If you needed a lot of
yeah.
structure and help, you were lost. Some of these kids were lost.
And you had advanced courses where it helped you with your college.
Oh yeah, you were ready. Like Gibbons.
Were you surprised at about the directions that your kids took in their lives, or were you like?
Oh my God, it was. Now, all right. Maggie asked me what was one of my. I told her my regrets, and then she asked me what was my best things I did.
The best thing you did?
All of them. Of course, they all went on to be good people and smart people. I helped. I'm not telling you. I always said
I
that.
had a little bit to do with that.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there, yeah.
They know that. I was there. And so was their father. He was different raised different than I was, but I never argued. Ask him. They never grew up in a war zone. I was never right, often not right with my husband.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What are you talking about? That's not the way it is. And I'd say, okay. Or I'd laugh. Because I wasn't going to argue. They were not going to fight. And then you didn't find us arguing.
No.
The only time you felt it.
Well, you weren't going to win the argument anyway.
I know, I knew I wasn't. See, I learned that early.
I see, yeah.
I wasn't going to win, so I just shut up. And when he'd get upset, I'd laugh. And that would drive him up a wall.
So you did win.
I did win.
Yeah.
But
he
of course,
didn't know it.
I
He didn't
said to
know
my, no, you're not, we didn't have that in my home. My father and mother never argued. I would not let that happen. My husband's brother and his wife did it constantly, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were always at each other's throats. The kids weren't happy.
The cousins with 8 cousins down the block.
Hmm. And I had made up my mind. A lot of times I had to swallow my pride and I had to pretend that he was right. A lot of times I'd say to them, don't pay any attention to him. I was the one. And he was the only one that ever gave him what for. Jody would just go along with it. James would go along with it. He would argue. And I would be kicking him up the down the table, shut the hell up. You're going to get him started. But he was a good dad.
Are you surprised we all went into healthcare? That's what Steve was saying. Just as
Yes.
a career choice.
Really?
Joe, you knew from a
Yes.
little kid.
He wanted to do that when he said when he was 6 years old or 5 years old, they said, what do you want to be? And he said, I want to be a doctor and find a cure for cancer.
And why was that? Did he know someone who
He
had
just
cancer?
was, he had that kind of mind like his stuff, what he liked. He liked science. He liked sitting out in the middle of the yard looking for the damn meteor showers and all that stuff, which I sat out in the yard looking for meteor showers and stuff with him too. He was a science buff. He was collecting fossils and all that stuff. Now, Drew went towards what I wanted. He was mine. He liked the music.
Oh.
And he
So
would
now,
You taught me art too.
yeah, and the art.
so did you have all your children instructed in music?
I gave him a chance. All of them gave him a chance to take piano lessons. Jody, as his teacher said to him, he could read that sheet of music completely, but he couldn't
Apply it.
apply it. He could read music. He loves music, but he couldn't apply it. Same way with James. You don't know anyone that loves music more than James.
Right.
But he took piano lessons and couldn't play it. Maria took piano lessons, and the teacher came and she said to me, she wants to play basketball. She's not practicing.
Okay.
And she did play basketball.
And that's it. And that's exactly what she did. She was what my husband would have called a jock. She was the only one that really loved sports. But she also was his buddy. She ended up being Daddy's little girl because they were already, look at the difference in their age.
Yeah.
They were already in high school and going into college when she's coming along making, her plans. Although Drew taught her how to shave under her arms.
Wow. That.
Yeah, what's an older brother for?
Oh my God. I was working and he came home and she was trying to do it. It was a good thing.
So you said that you went back to work at this. Was it the same law firm that you worked before?
No.
Oh.
No, but sort of, in a way. Maria was in 8th grade, and they were in college and high school, and, you know, and I was bored.
Right, yeah.
And a friend of mine came and she said that the attorney down there on Main Street in Phoenixville was looking for a secretary. And she said, I was working for him, but I'm only working part-time. She said, you want to work? She said, look, you work for a lawyer. Go work for him. And I said, I'll try it. So I went and interviewed and I did it. 8 years with them. I worked. Because I did. Once you learned how to type and all that junk and stuff, it was still in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And by then, computers and electric typewriters and all that stuff was coming through too. It wasn't stenography.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I worked for, there were 3 lawyers. And I liked the work. And then I got too old for them.
What do you mean?
Well, they called me into the office. I was 62. And they said they were moving their office to Paoli, and they thought, well, maybe that they had too many secretaries, and they didn't need me anymore. And the boss came and he said to me, he's so sorry. I'm so sorry to lose you. I'm going to miss you. And I told him to go to hell. I said, if I had the money, I'd sue you. He said, for? I said, age discrimination. He walked out of that office. I guess he didn't think. I was so mad. I didn't want to go to Paoli.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have. But he didn't give me the choice. I resented that because I was always the one that opened the office for them. I lived in Phoenixville. He didn't. And if he needed the office opened early, you know. And he took advantage.
Mm.
And Maria went to, she was called for jury duty with the same guy. And you know how a lawyer can pick out
Right.
his jury? Well, Maria was named, whatever they are, and my boss, my ex-boss, stood up and said he resented. He had a problem with her. And the judge said, why? And he said, well, you know what he said? He said, well, there's issues, but he said there's drugs in her family.
And the case had something to do with that?
It did.
Yeah.
Oh, was she mad? So sure she had to be excused. And there wasn't any drugs in our family. There were drugs in one of the families, but not in ours.
Right.
But he was a louse anyway. Then your father came home and said, I met Steve downtown. He asked how you're doing.
This is the attorney?
And I liked the job. I liked the work.
So after that, did you work again?
Yeah.
No.
No, well, after that, I thought it was time for me to do something for me, and I'm going to take art lessons. Finally. So I made the arrangements, and the senior center was, the wonderful artist was giving art lessons. So I worked there I went to her for, I guess, about a month and a half, and my husband had a stroke.
Ah.
And it went on and on, so that was it. I couldn't work.
When did he have the stroke?
I'd see time and dates for me anymore.
You were 62.
He died in 53. I mean, in 53, my God. In 03 is when he died.
And
The stroke was before that.
The stroke was before that. He got better from the stroke, but he never got well because then he started losing weight and they start worrying it. And he said he just wasn't eating good, and it was. I said, why don't you go get a colonoscopy? Your brother died with colon cancer.
What did he say?
He didn't need one. He told the doctor, I'll never have one. Yeah, and then he had some kind of a thing. They had to take him to the hospital, and guess what he had? Colonoscopy.
Hmm.
And guess what that showed? So that was the end. He had colon cancer.
How long did he survive after the diagnosis of colon cancer?
About 6 months.
6 months, yeah. It went fast.
He started chemo. He took chemo
Yes,
for
he
about
did. He
6
did the
months.
chemo. He was a good patient, considering he really was.
Now,
He was so.
he died at what age?
72.
And he retired from the school district how many years before that?
For that, it was sort of mandatory. You know, they were getting
Yeah.
rid of.
Right.
Well, it was before I went back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to work when Maria was in 8th grade.
Right. So she was born in 69.
I don't do math.
87.
So he's retired at least 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, at least 10 years.
Yes.
What did he do in that interim from after he retired? What kind of stuff did he do?
Sitting in front of the porch a lot. But he did all the shopping. He did all my shop. I never did grocery shopping in my life. He did it all.
That's true.
That's true. I didn't like to do it, and he always did it with his mother, because his mother was a single mother, and his father was the town drunk. And so he really was very close to his mom. So he always took her grocery shopping. He knew the price of stuff. And I remember getting her a bag of flour or something. She asked me to pick it up for her, and when I come home and handed it to her, she said, how much did it cost? I said, I had no idea. Oh my God, she was so much time. You're supposed to look at that stuff, she said. I don't know how to shop to this day. Maria does it now. He
So
did all the
he
shopping.
did all the
Christmas, Monday will, if he was living today, this coming Monday will be his shopping day.
I see. He waited till the last minute.
Well, he waited till he got his bonus in school. Then I would give him a list on the day before Christmas, because it was the last day of school. I'd give him a list for whatever I had to get for them. I took care of the cooking and the baking and the trimming the tree. And he would go off at 5 o'clock in the morning and not come back maybe until 11 and have every blessed thing they wanted. Which was amazing.
Did you ever have a crisis in your marriage?
No, I don't think so. No. I knew it wasn't going to be a bed of roses a lot of times. And at times I was pissed, like we all get, or one of the things I resented him for was he didn't want me to do anything on my own.
What do you mean?
When he was in Guards, he would go away to camp. I wasn't allowed to go to the movies by myself or with the girls, or he didn't want me to do any of that.
Why?
Who knows? I didn't fight. See, I was not the fighter. I just took it. I never questioned why. I just figured that I don't know what it was that made him do that. But at one time I said to him, we went to a wedding and someone had asked me to dance. And it was a neighbor. And he said, we're going home. So in the car I'm getting what for, because I danced with Mr. Morgan.
Mr. Morgan.
Yes. And he pulled up in front of the house and he says, get out. I said, you're nuts. And I get out of the car and off he went. I think it was an excuse to go to the club, I don't know.
Was he insecure?
To a degree, I think he was.
He and his siblings.
I made fun of his father.
Really?
He used to be on the middle of Bridge Street. He and Scott are Cohen. His father was brilliant.
He was brilliant, you said?
That's what I hear. I didn't know him. He wouldn't come to my wedding, and he didn't. He beat his mother. He hit her. He was cruel, and he was a terrible bad drunk. A cruel man. And when Ace was told that his father died, and we were living in Westchester then, he cried. His tears were rolling. He said he never hurt anybody but us. And he did. One time, his mother worked so hard. She used to clean houses and whatever. And she cleaned houses, and the neighbor paid her with some flour and some groceries, and she made bread. And he came home, and they were all sitting around the table for dinner, and he said to his wife, "Where did you get the flour?" And she said, "Mrs. Moyer down the street gave it to me." And he took the tablecloth. Now these kids are sitting around a kitchen table. He took the tablecloth like this and pulled it. All the food. He was cruel. I didn't know him. I heard things about him, but the kids had a hard time.
You said he didn't come to your wedding?
No.
Because?
He had probably just got rid of his kids and his heart and his mind, and he lived with his mother. He went home and lived with his mother. And that's where he got sick. And he then, besides that, when he did die, Ace's mother was a single mom, but his mother, his father's mother, the grandmother, sent the funeral director to my mom.
To the wrong house?
To my mother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
And said that her husband was dead. But he hadn't lived there for.
I see.
But she did. She did the right thing. And the kids. And that's when Ace, your father, said he never hurt anybody but us. He did. He was the laughing stock of town, but I understand. My brother told me, he worked with him, and he said he was a brilliant man.
Where did he work?
He worked at the steel mill when he worked, but he was, most of the time he didn't work, he was drunk. He was constantly. He had a very bad problem, poor soul. And I understand he came from Hungary. With his parents. But we didn't know them. We didn't get to know them. They never got to know the grandfather.
Since Ace has passed, what do you miss?
Everything.
Did you think you would miss him as much as you do?
Oh yeah. Because we were married 50 years. We celebrated 50 years. We had moments, and but I was able to deal with who he was. If you accept people for who they are, you can deal.
Instead of trying to change them?
That's right. And I couldn't change it. Maria can't believe I'm doing this.
Why? What do you mean?
I don't know. It's upsetting.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
And I have no idea. I said, I'm not going to put it on the television. That's a good thing to do. I never would have thought to do this in my wildest imagination. What I did think of doing, and I am going to do it, I have a walkie-talkie. They got me for Christmas, and I said, I'm going to start talking into that. Just when things come into my head.
It's a walkie-talkie? What do you mean?
It's a
Records your voice?
yeah,
It's a recorder.
I mean. It's a yeah.
Yeah.
It's a machine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And they'll have, I might be saying
all we have.
having a bad
That's good.
day.
Thank you.
I might be having a lousy bad day, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea. I
And
mean,
I said that, and that's when.
unless you're going to write things down.
That's when Maggie got this idea. She said, "You know what we're going to do?" And
Yeah.
I don't know. And she said, "Yes, we are."
Right.
How am I doing, Drew?
You're doing great.
Yeah, we're almost done.
It's very natural.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you live still in Phoenixville, in the same home
Yes.
that you've been for what now? 60?
60. Yeah, 60 years exactly.
60
I was
years.
married 52.
60 years. And Maria lives with you?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And you have how many siblings still living?
None.
And how many nieces and nephews?
Let me see. That's Catherine.
That's tough.
Joanne's family. That's.
Well, if
Catherine,
there's
Francis 4. 6 and 4. Elizabeth 5. But they're not all living.
Here.
There's only 3 living.
13.
Bobby 2.
15.
Bernie 2.
17.
so probably in the 20s.
Yeah.
20s.
But I am not in touch with most of them because there's loss of touch. I mean, they lost touch with. I don't know if it's except there's 2 that keep in constant touch with me.
Are most of them in the Phoenixville area? Or
No, they're in Philadelphia.
they're Philadelphia. And you have how many? You have 4 children. How many grandchildren do you have?
Oh, how many grandchildren do I have? I have 3 grandchildren.
3 grandchildren.
4.
4
I forget
grandchildren.
that, Lexi. I got a new one. She's 2 years older. Whoa. Sometimes I want to run away. She's as cute as a button, believe me.
And how's your health right now?
Good.
Yeah. Knock wood.
I've had a heart attack. I am on. I had bypass surgery, and I go to cardiac therapy weekly, twice a week. I have a bad back, which causes some problems with my. I have a bad back that I had since childhood. I swear it's genetic. I have 4 or 5 ruptured discs and a couple bulging discs and all, and it causes some nerve pain and stuff like that.
Do you do anything to exercise at all?
Sure, I go to cardiac therapy.
And what do you do there exactly?
I do treadmill, and I do recumbent bike, and I do the arm machine, and most of the time I walk to the hospital and I walk home.
Oh, how far is that?
Maybe 4 or 5 blocks.
Oh, that's good.
You see pretty good during. Tell us about how your vision is, how you do during okay during the day.
Yes, yeah. At nighttime, I would be positively a statue. I would not move.
Yeah.
This vision needs light,
Lots of light.
what I have, and I can do fine. I said it, the middle of everything is like it's alive. It's a gray cloud that moves, like that thing on your building.
Yeah, the shimmering.
Yeah, the shimmering. It shimmers.
Huh.
But my eyes have gotten so attuned to it that I don't really recognize it. And my eyes also, my brain knows enough
Right.
to tell me when to move my head
Right.
for the peripheral. I can see up, I can see down perfectly.
You're how old right now?
82, just had a birthday.
How long do you think you'll live?
Oh God, no. No, my mother lived to be 89. I'll think I'll push for that.
Mm-hmm. And her quality of life was good.
Yes, her quality of life was good until she got the aorta thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in those days, as I said, that was her first time to the doctor when they found that. So first time in her life that she was ever in a hospital.
Do you have any goals or aspirations in your final years? Or things that you want to do, or
No.
you don't have
Just
any?
to watch my the grandchildren. I'd love to see them graduate, and I'm not afraid of dying.
Good.
I lived a good life, that's for sure. I think I have, don't you?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and I have. I mean, the support I've had. As Maggie said, what's your best thing you can think of would be my kids, my family. My way of life was what I wanted. My mother asked me, they asked you in school what you wanted to be when you grew up. All my friends stood up and said a nun. Guess what I stood up and said?
Tell me.
A mom.
Oh, how about that?
I want to be a mother. That's what I said. And that goes to show you that I had a pretty good one at home. He knows. He knew my mom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something you don't learn in a school, right?
No.
It's good to learn that firsthand.
Yeah. And my mother and father were fun together. They laughed a lot together. The times I had with them, of course I didn't realize that I should have paid more attention to it, like you don't. I didn't think I'd lose my father so fast,
Yeah.
who was my dearest friend. At the time, I thought.
Speaking of friends, who has been your best friend through your life? Do you have a best friend?
Yes, I did. I had a friend who, I think she was in her mother's womb and I was in my mother's womb. Her name was Winnie Quinn.
Winnie Quinn.
We did get sort of separate lives, like everything happens. She was raising her family, I was raising my family. But we kept coming back again. Right now we're back again. We're we belong to ARP.
Sure.
Together, and we go to the meetings and sit together and talk about yesterday and her kids and my kids.
So how long have you known Winnie?
All my life.
So since like grade school?
Only
Or?
she teases me. Yeah,
Oh.
because we lived a half block away from each other and went to the same school. She went down to the Hallahan also.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in her wedding, and
Oh.
I knew her family very well, and she knew mine. And she doesn't know my kids well. She wants to. She said, isn't that a shame that we didn't do that? Which it is.
Is that because you were just
We were
separated during that time?
Yeah, it was different.
Did she move away from Phoenix?
Yeah, and she was going a different direction. She worked I was working in Westchester. She was working in Phoenixville. Life interfered.
Yeah.
Everybody's life changes them. And until her kids are all grown up and my kids are grown up, and now we can attach each other again. But I think my best friend was my next door neighbor, but she died. She was the one I would talk to that one.
And so you were neighbors. When did she die?
A couple of years ago.
So you were neighbors for more than 50 years.
Yes, yes. And she was a different type of person than I was, and I didn't drive. And she she liked company, so she'd call me and she'd say, "You want to go up country?"
Oh, nice.
That meant, let's go to the Dutch country.
Yeah.
And we'd go up maybe once a week. We'd go up and have lunch, go shopping, or someplace else. I'm not a shopper. That is one thing I am not. I don't like to shop. I am a one woman who hates shopping. I truly do. I don't like it. I'd rather... Never thought that was interesting. But you know why? I never had money. So I didn't want to go looking at stuff that I couldn't buy.
Right. Right. Why look at it if you
Yeah.
can't have it? Yeah.
So, because growing up and being young and raising a family was hand-me-downs quite often, or presents or something like that. I mean, I never went out and bought stuff. Never.
Let's change the subject a little bit just before we end, and just get a kind of a perspective on what you think is happening in the world these days. When you look around and you hear the news and you see what's going on, is there anything that strikes you about life in the United States right now that is just so different from when you were younger?
I don't like the technology
No.
taking over.
No.
I totally don't like it. But that's what has to happen. It's inventions. It's things that are happening. I told my son Jody, he has two stepchildren, and they were staying at my house one day overnight, and I had to go into their bedroom that they were sleeping in. I excused myself, and I said to them, "I'm sorry, I had to get in the closet." But they're sitting there, didn't even raise their heads. And I said, "Jonas, guess what I heard?" So he looked up and I said, I just heard on the news. I said, something out in space just took over, and it's interfering with all the technology here on this earth. And they're really worried about it. Well, this kid, I didn't know what else to say. His eyes look like, oh my God. Then I go to church, and there's two kids in church going, oh my God. So that's the one thing. And Maria says, I gotta stop that, because that's what is. So
Well, I agree with you.
accept
They shouldn't have it in church, and
But it's there. If it's going to keep the kid quiet, it'll be there.
no, that's crap. Kids who were quiet in church long before that stuff was happening.
Well, it's either that or they're going back and forth to the bathroom.
What about life in this country? I mean, you've seen a lot of change. You've never lived anywhere but
No,
southeastern Pennsylvania, right?
right here.
Okay. But you've traveled, haven't you? Have you?
Oh, sure, I went to Europe and everything.
Yeah, where'd you go in Europe?
I went twice, 3 times. I went to Austria, Hungary. My first trip, I went with my husband. Because when he retired, he did not want to party. He wanted to go on a trip. So these kids got together and sent us on a trip. And we landed in Germany, and from Germany we went on to all the way up to Hungary. And we went through Austria and Hungary. And I said in Austria, this is where I came from. As I told you, my family came from Bavaria. And we got to Hungary, and my husband said, and this is where I came from, Budapest. And that was a wonderful trip.
Yeah.
It really was. That's the one place, if I had the chance again before, I would have gone back to. We went to Ireland, we went to England. So all the things that you're supposed to see when you go on trips. Scotland, I saw the golf course. I even hit a couple balls on the golf course up there. I beat ace.
Did you?
Yes, I did. I got a hole-in-one that day.
At St. Andrews.
So they could have called you Ace then.
Now, understand that it was just a makeshift thing that they did for people to come.
Right, the tourists. Yeah.
Yeah, and,
Still,
but it was right on the very corner where the two oceans, you know.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat, but it was an amazing thing. But I saw enough of the world. But what I think is, and this is what I thought was wrong with what's going on with what they're saying about these children and all. It wasn't the guns only that these children are dead for because of. There is no health. There is no medicine for these people. Being insane is the same as having cancer or a tumor. And I worry that they can't fix it.
You mean mental health?
Mental health, it's not there anymore. Like I think we lived in a town where there was a place called Penhurst. And it had its goods and its bads and stuff, but when they start letting those patients go out into the town, I was terrified as a kid. Because those poor people did not know what they were doing.
They couldn't cope with being
and they
outside.
couldn't cope. And there was nothing to make it change for them. And I think that's what happened here. That man was that young. He wasn't even a man, he was a boy.
Yeah.
Was so mentally ill.
Did you ever think you'd see a black president?
Oh, that did. No, I never had. No, I never saw black and I told you that. I never saw black and white. I had friends who were black. My mother, we ate with people. My mother sat in the front porch with Mrs. Ford and sent me in to get her some lemonade and make sure Mrs. Ford got it. And all our old clothes went to Mrs. Ford because she had 6 kids. I grew up in a place that had a lot of black people, so that never was a problem for me. And I never saw our president as a black man, or distinguished, or voted for him because of that.
So, when you were growing up, did you experience racism of any kind, or did you notice?
No, I had friends. I really grew up. I had a young girl, her name was Lenore Adams. She was in school with me. I don't know how she got into a parochial school, but she was. She was black. She was from Philadelphia. She had a sister. There were 2 girls. Her name was Lenore Adams. I didn't. And the part of town I lived in was the part where, if I wanted to get into town, I had to go through the black section. But they knew me. I was as safe there as I would have been on my front porch. They knew I was Blackie's sister, my brother's sister, or Bernie's sister. They knew who I was. They would have put their life down to help me. I was never afraid of black people, ever. And I liked them. I never had that. And I'm glad that he's president, and I hope he stays a while, to tell you the truth.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add? You know, that if your great-grandchildren ever watch this video, that...
I just want to say how grateful I am for what it was given. I mean, just the fact that I got through measles, chickenpox, all that stuff, when there wasn't stuff out there to help them. That I was lucky enough to have a big family, brothers and sisters, that cared, and nieces and nephews. I have a niece who's 5 years younger than me, and we grew up like sisters, and we still are. And I'm grateful for her because she knows me and knows who we are and where we came from. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the chances, the education I had. I wouldn't give it up for anything except I wished I could have went further.
So if you had one thing you could do differently,
I
it
would
would
have
be.
went to college
Yeah.
or art school or would have went on with learning. I liked learning.
Mm-hmm.
I liked reading.
Mm-hmm.
And my father taught me that.
Here she comes. Stop talking about her. It's all right. Gonna warm up the room before you.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're done here.
Yeah,
Thanks for talking to me.
sure, okay.
Yeah.
Maria was not bad at all. Ask him. I didn't do anything to embarrass you.
Worried about
Although
you
I
embarrassing
I
your
didn't know
life.
about the parole. I didn't know about that. Or the restraining order. I didn't know
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
about that.
Or
So that's all news to me. But it'll be on YouTube tomorrow.
Yeah, getting those night calls from the cops.
It's good sometimes when you're doing this.
It
You
was
remember more than when we
It's
directly
true.
ask you.
It's true. It was
So it's
amazing
probably
how
good to do it
I
in a big-
ended up. I even said to her, I don't have to talk if I don't want to. You really twisted my arm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
The truth serum.
you were just pulling it out.
Yes, indeed.